Okay guys, so part 2 of music industry networking, or at least an intro to it to give you an idea. It's story time, so you can really see how to do this for real rather than me just rattling off my opinion. It's really not my opinion. This is what Berkeley taught me to do, and even to a degree this is what Penn State taught me to do in my studies of organizational leadership, and in my career outside of music in sales and sometimes inside of music. This is just how some of the best fruit on a tree is grown or bared, if you will. So when I was living in Seattle, I went to a protest, and upon going to that protest, my fiance at the time, I guess, girlfriend, fiance, she was the one who took me to the protest. It was something that she wanted to go to, and I was into it too. I just didn't know it was happening. So she was like, let's go. And we get down there and we meet her contact. So we're hanging out on the street corner doing our thing. And our contact had a husband, and he was lurking kind of a little bit off to the side. And, I just looked over at him and kind of got a vibe from him. When you look up a picture of this guy, you'll probably understand why I say that. So we get to talking, and I can't even really remember what we talked about. It was just general, what do you do, how you doing, what do you think about this cause, just talking, just, because we're two humans standing next to each other. And before I knew it, I asked him what he did, and he said, I'm a mastering engineer. And my jaw probably hit the floor because I had never met anybody in mastering, even though I had just wrapped up a course in mastering from Berkeley. And I said, get out. And we just talked about it. We talked about what his day-to-day looked like in that, because I had no clue. I was in a very detached part of the business. I was still learning to produce at home, and I played DJ gigs, and that was it. The key takeaway here is the protest ended. We had great convo. I knew how to get back in touch with him. I knew how to get back in touch with him at the very least through his wife, but I knew how to get in touch with him independently as well, because I remembered the mastering studio that he would eventually become the owner of. And I kept that in mind. I went home, I kept working on my EDM stuff, and at that time it was very tech housey, and that's it. He was not in the techno scene, if you will, or the EDM scene, if you will. He was a mastering engineer that ran his business mostly on, from what I could tell, bands that needed their albums mastered. So we're both in music, just both in different aspects of the industry as far as genre goes. And a couple months later, I had a friend basically tell me everything that I told you in video 1. And thank God I listened, because it had occurred to me that I have a contact right there in Seattle that I wasn't using at all, and it was stupid of me. So I got fed up with my lack of progress in the business, and I straight up emailed him. And I said, hey, really appreciate you talking during the protest. I hope you remember me. Is there any chance that if I bought you lunch, brought the whole mastering studio / office coffee, that I could just look over your shoulder? I'm the kind of person that you can tell to shut up easily, and I will. I also have a very high intuition in studios. I've been in studios before in a band cutting an album, so I'm not the kind of person where if you agree to this, you're bringing somebody in that doesn't understand that you can't talk while the music is playing because you're trying to hear it in order to master it. So I understand that most of the time in the studio I will be silent, and so will you, trying to master this, this work of art. So is there any chance, with all that said, that I could come to the studio one day and just learn? He was like, yeah, sure. You don't even have to buy me lunch. You know, and at that time, had he agreed to lunch, I would have done it anyways, but I was broke. Him agreeing to lunch, and possibly lunch for the entire office, to butter them up and get my foot in the door, that would have kind of put a hurting on me. Seattle rent is very expensive. So, one thing led to another. I went to the mastering house, and we became great friends. And it got to the point where I was going at least once a week, and at times even 3 times a week, and spending the whole day with him, and getting to know other people in the office, although he would be my main contact there, my main takeaway, which worked out well because he ended up being the owner of that mastering studio. And that's it. You know, and this is a perfect example. And those who understand the business will understand that I'm not saying what I'm about to say in a bad way, but he didn't offer me a hand up from the ledge and get me a major label deal. He didn't offer me any kind of magic sauce, any secret sauce. He's just a friend. He's a friend in the business trying to earn a paycheck just like me. So, and that's okay. That's what networking really is. It isn't looking at somebody who's older than you in the industry, finding out that they have a cooler job than you, and asking for help only so that you can deceivingly leverage their position for your own gain. It's not about that. That's not what you do, and that's not what it is. And that's really how you get blacklisted very quickly. So, I say all this because I want you to understand that that's what you do. You come to somebody humbly as a student. You give, even if it's something as small as buying coffee for the studio, and you understand what you're asking for. You reassure them, I understand that you're mastering major label artists, and indie artists too. So I'm not there to talk your ear off. I'm not there to, over your shoulder, rudely make an adjustment on the EQ or the Manley compressor while you're trying to work. You know, I'm not going to be presumptuous. I know how to shut up in a studio, and I understand that much of our time there will be silently me in the corner listening. And at times when I can feel that I'm not annoying you, there's deep intuition here, guys, you know, and you should take that away from this. It's important. Me feeling when I'm not annoying you too much that I could get closer and look over your shoulder. And a lot of times I prefaced my questions for him with this: whenever you have a minute, ... And what I mean by that is, it's silent in here. I don't know where your headspace totally is. So whenever you have a minute, I have a quick question. Sometimes he'd say, go for it, because my intuition was right on. Other times he'd say, give me 1 minute, which would usually turn into a second question of, when he finally did come around and say, yeah, what's up? The second question usually would be, well, what were you just doing that you were silent, but I could not ask you right away? And he would say, well, I was looking in Pro Tools, and when I was looking in Pro Tools, I was adjusting something or doing something in there that required silence in me thinking. So I would always have a question for him about why in a mastering studio or any studio, if you're silent but we can't talk yet, what's the visual that you're looking at? But now anyways, now that I know that, on to my real question: why did you do this? Or in a situation like this, I've just been wondering this. It has nothing to do with what we're doing now, but just looking over at the compressor there, I'm just wondering, what about this or that? And he would answer, and it was great. It wasn't the be-all, end-all. And a lot of his answers were actually very vague, even though he's a world-renowned mastering engineer. So what I mean by that is a lot of times he would say to me, I just turn knobs until it sounds good. You know, there wasn't a plan. There wasn't a master plan for every single song. He used his ears and that was it. So, anyways, stay tuned. We'll do a part 3, video 3, and I'll tell you another story.